Hi everyone, I'm Terry Hartley with Rustic Barn Cards. I'm glad you're here. Welcome. If you like this video, please remember to click the like button. And if you haven't subscribed, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. Today, I'm going to make a card using the triple time technique with a twist. And I think you're going to like this card. I like the triple time technique because I think the cards using that technique look very elegant and look very complicated, but they're not. They're very easy to make. So let me show you how to make the triple time technique using that for a card along with the twist. So let me turn the camera down and let's get stamping. So we are going to make a triple time stamping technique with a twist. And the twist part I learned from Sandy MacGyver. Now you can use this technique with any stamp set that you have. And it's going to look complicated, but it really isn't. And you'll see how easy you can make this really cute card. The stamp set I'm going to use today is the Banner Year. So I'm going to use the spider web and this little sprig here. And I'm going to use the sentiment Happy Haunting. And then I am going to use one stamp from another stamp set. And that's from the Celebration Tidings. And I want to use the spider because it's going to kind of go with the spider web. So let me show you the card that we're going to make today. This is the card that we're going to make today. And if you stay with me to the end, I have another card that I've made that is similar but a little bit different. So I know it looks really complicated, but it really isn't. So let's get started. So I have a sheet of Cajun Craze, and I'm going to bring in a sheet of cardstock and our trimmer. I really like this trimmer because our cutting blade, you can move it out of the way, and we have a scoring blade that also moves out of the way. So I'm going to put the cardstock and I'm going to cut it at 4 1/4. Then I would have enough for 2 cards. And then I am going to score this at 5 1/2. So 5 1/2. And then my cutting blade's up here, and here's my scoring blade. And I like to go over it several times. And I slide that out of the way. And then we have our card base. So let's move this out of the way. And I'm going to bring in the materials that we need. So we have our card base. We're going to go ahead and fold our card base. So I folded that. Use the bone folder. So we are going to need, we have our card base. And I have used Cajun Craze and Very Vanilla. So I'll have the dimensions. You have your card base, and these are going to be for the frame. You have 4 1/2 by 3 1/4, and then 3 1/2 by 2 1/4. And then we're going to need a Very Vanilla to go inside our Cajun Craze cardstock, which will be 5 1/4 by 4. And then we're going to need 3 of the same color. And I've chosen Very Vanilla. And we have the same as inside our cardstock. We have 5 1/4 by 4. 4 1/4 by 3. And then 3 1/4 by 2. So I'm going to lay, this is going to be the frame, so I'm going to lay it aside. And what I'm going to do with these 3 pieces is that I'm going to layer them. Now I am going to take them apart later, so I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Seal, and I'm going to just add a little bit of Stampin' Seal on the back, and then I'm going to just place this kind of right in the middle. And then I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive on the back of this smaller one. And like I said, we will be taking these apart. And if you get too much adhesive, then it really is difficult to take them apart. If you don't get enough, then sometimes you have to be careful with our little twist that we're going to do on our triple time, which you don't have to do the twist part. But I think gives a kind of a pop of color. Then, anyway, you have to be careful so they don't come apart, I guess is what I'm trying to say. All right, so now I'm going to bring in my Versamark. We are going to do a little bit of embossing. That's kind of our twist, okay? So I'm going to bring in the spider web. And since this is our cling stamp, I am going to bring in my mat so I can get a good stamped image. And I'm going to stamp a spider web right up here. I'm going to ink up with a Versamark. And I'm going to put one over here. And we'll put one down in the corner. I'm going to hang on to my cardstock as I bring that up. Okay, and now I'm going to bring in our sentiment, Happy Haunting. And I'm going to get lots of ink on it. I'm going to put it right here in the corner of the smaller cardstock. Okay. I'm going to clean my stamps real quick off camera. Put the lid back on our Versamark. And move this. We'll need that later. One step I did forget. I do like to use before I stamped, I should have used a dryer sheet to make sure that all my fingerprints and everything is off. It just does a better job of having the Versamark stick. But I did forget that. Okay, so now I'm going to add, this is white embossing powder. And I am going to add this to my stamped images. And then I'm going to, and you always like to kind of flick the back to get all the embossing powder. Okay, and lay that aside. And then, now this is the way that I do it. I use a coffee filter. I don't even drink coffee, but my husband never misses. He does. He never misses a few coffee filters. And then I'm able to just pour the extra embossing powder right back in the container. Sometimes I will put the embossing powder in the container and use a plastic spoon just to dip it on. So that's another way. Okay, I'm going to lay that aside. And then I'm going to use a clothespin, and I'm going to make sure that I have a hold of all of the 3 layers. And I'm going to bring in my tool, my heating tool. I'm going to let it run a little bit. Don't check to see if it's hot though, because you'll burn your arm. I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see this, but put it a little closer. You can see it starting to change. And I finished the embossing so you didn't have to hear that loud noise. So I went ahead and embossed our sentiment and the spider webs. Okay, and now we're ready to do our stamping. So I'm going to bring in my mat to stamp on. And I just have it covered in a sheet of copy paper so it will protect. I'm going to bring in my spider web, and I'm going to be using Memento Black. I think I'm going to get our card out of the way. I'm afraid I'm going to end up getting ink on it. Okay, and I'm going to stamp. And we'll put one up in the corner. And I think I'll do one more down here. Okay. And then I'm just going to do chamois to clean that off. Because now I'm going to use a different ink. So I'm going to put the lid on this. And I am going to bring in Crumb Cake. So I'm using 3 inks today. Crumb Cake, Old Olive, and Cajun Craze. Now you could use any color of ink that you wanted to. You also could use any stamp set. Let's put one up here. Put one about there. Maybe we'll put one right here. And let's see. I think that looks good. I don't want to have too many because I'm also going to have some spiders. So while I have my crumb cake out, I think I will grab my spider. And I'm going to put one here. And I think I'm going to put one over here. And maybe we'll just put one close to... All right. I will need the crumb cake again, but I'm going to close it up. So now I'm going to bring in the Cajun Craze and add some more spiders, but I'm going to use the Cajun Craze color. And I'm going to put one right up here. Let's put one down here. I see. Kind of cover up that mistake down there. Kind of look like. So I think maybe we need one more over here. Somewhere. Let's see if we can slide him in. And that's okay. We'll have a frame, and so even though it didn't get, it should be fine. You'll see. So now I am going to bring in the Old Olive, and I'm going to stamp some sprigs to kind of fill in some places. maybe down here. So I kind of filled in with the Old Olive, so I'm going to bring in some crumb cake and kind of look and see where I need to finish filling in. I feel like I need a sprig right here. And maybe over here. And we'll put one right here. Maybe over here, and then we're just about finished, I think. I think that looks good. Okay, so I'm going to close up my crumb cake. And I have the stamping completed. So now I'm going to take these apart. I'm going to put them on the frame. So this is kind of where the magic happens. There we go. Now, I use Stampin' Seal. If you have just regular Stampin' the Seal, not the, excuse me, I use Stampin' Seal Plus. And if you just have the Stampin' Seal, it might work better. Okay, now we're going to bring in our frames. And the card base, we're using that as a frame. So our largest piece is going to go in here. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and bring in the card for the inside. And I'm going to use Memento Black. And inside the card, I'm going to have Boo. So I'm going to go ahead and ink this up. And stamp Boo. And I think I will, we could put a spider web. We could do both, but I think I will just go ahead and put the spider web right down here in the corner. And then you could also add to your envelope too. So I'm going to go ahead and place this inside our card base. And make sure it's straight. There we go. Okay, so happy hunting on the outside and then Boo on the inside. Okay, so now we're ready to do the magic. So we're going to take our largest piece that we stamped, and we're going to go ahead and adhere this to the card base. So I'm going to use liquid glue for my first layer. I'm going to turn it around and get it lined up. Okay, and then press that down. Okay, press that down, so I'm going to lay that aside. And then we're going to be putting these on here. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and use the Stampin' Seal. Make sure I have it lined up. I feel like I'm off the camera, I'm sorry. Okay, and now we will put the smallest one on. Okay. sure it's straight. Okay, now for the fun. Now what we're going to do, this is the extra, okay? So we are going to do the twist. So the twist is using a sponge or a sponge dauber, and I'm going to use crumb cake, and we are going to make those the images that we embossed. We're going to make them pop. So I'm going to add some crumb cake, and right down here I am just going to add some crumb cake around what I embossed, and I can also, you know, if I want to bring it a little bit to the side, I can do that. If I decide I want to maybe add a little bit up here of the crumb cake, okay, then I'm going to bring in the middle. Sometimes I kind of like to make sure I don't have too much. And I'm going to maybe make this a little bit, there we go, so you can kind of see what I'm doing. See how the embossing spider web just kind of pops because the crumb cake is getting in the embossing, and it just brings it up. So here, now you probably can see this one a little bit better. Then I can just bring it around. And maybe put a little bit over here. So see how those are popping? They're just kind of, you can see them so much better. All right, and now we will bring in the small one. And we have some in this corner. Whoop, went the wrong way so you can see it better. And over here. And now for our sentiment, happy haunting. And then I'm just kind of blending in the crumb cake. Okay. So now we're ready to put our card together, and we'll see the magic. Now you do want to make sure that when you go to add adhesive, that you look for something to line up. So I'm going to be lining up that spider web. See, like that. All right. So now I'm going to turn this over. And I think you could probably use your liquid adhesive. I'm getting a little better with this Stampin' Seal Plus, but I'm still having some trouble. I should have brought in my, which I will, my silicone mat. So it's a good thing so it won't stick. Okay, so let me make sure great. So you just kind of look at one thing, and also make sure you don't have it upside down, because if you have it upside down, then so you do need to make sure, I would check first and make sure that you have it going the right way and that will match. And I'm using the silicone, that way the glue doesn't stick on it, and also I won't have any, my cardstock won't stick on my paper either. All right. Okay, and now I'm kind of lining up right over here. case you're wondering. I want to make sure you can see. So this little leaf right here. And I also want to make sure there we go. Here is our triple time stamping technique. And the magic when you put them on the frame and put it all together. See how easy that was? And the twist is adding the embossing. See how the embossing just pops? The happy hunting and the spider webs. And let me bring in my other card that I told you I would show you. So with this card, I used Have a Hoot. And I used the little pumpkin here. And then I used the bat from our banner year that we used on this card. And I used Very Vanilla, but I also used Pumpkin Pie. And I did not go ahead and color the pumpkins in. You could with blends if you wanted to. Now on the inside, I did. So when you open it up, it says Boo, and I did go ahead and use Stampin' Blends to color inside, but I didn't on the outside. So here are 2 triple time stamping techniques using Halloween cards, using fall colors, Cajun Craze, Pumpkin Pie, Very Vanilla. Now you could use any color for your cards. If you're going to use the twist, if you're going to do the embossing, I would probably stick with Whisper White or Very Vanilla, because then when you add, let's say like Crumb Cake, it's going to really, make it pop, or whatever color that you choose. So you can experiment and have fun. But you can use this with any stamp set. And I have made the triple time cards for several years, and I really like this technique because it looks kind of complicated, but it's really easy. So I hope you have enjoyed watching card class today. And if you like this video today, please click like. I appreciate it very much. And I'm glad you're here. If you haven't subscribed, I would love for you to subscribe by clicking the subscribe button. And have a blessed day.